Good afternoon. This is another episode of The Whispering Sword. I've been thinking about the elections. Last week I was pleased with some, and others I was very concerned. And I asked the Lord for a word, and He gave me Isaiah 54:16, which says, "I have created the destroyer to destroy." In other words, there's a limit on evil. There's a limit beyond which I control evil. I will not allow it to go beyond certain boundaries. God is sovereign. And the next verse is, no weapon formed against you will prosper. Well, that's reassuring in a time when you feel that there are many weapons formed against you, against your faith. The next point that he brought to me was a passage from the Gospels, where Jesus was with a crowd of people who were surrounding him with great joy and anticipation for, they'd seen these miracles, they were anticipating more miracles, and they came across a crowd of people, another crowd that was very discouraged and a grieving crowd. That was a widow who had lost her only son. She had lost her Social Security, she lost her future, and the crowd was grieving, and they were on their way to the cemetery with the son who had just died. And the Jesus crowd meets this grieving crowd, and he raises this young man to life, as you recall the story. And so suddenly we have one crowd, a resurrection crowd, full of life and faith and hope and anticipation and joy. It's a resurrection crowd. And I was reminded by the Spirit that we are the resurrection crowd. We know Jesus rose from the dead. We know how this ends. We know what we're destined for, that we're going to reign with him. Regardless of who's reigning now, we're going to reign with him throughout eternity. I woke up the next morning from a dream, and the dream was about Mom Donnie, the new mayor of New York City. And I was not in favor of him. I have prayed against his being elected. But in this dream, I don't remember the dream, except I woke up with a compassion for him, actually a love for him, a desire to pray for him. That in spite of his political views, in spite of his religious views, I want to see him do well as mayor of New York City. I want him to prosper. I want the city to prosper. I want it to be a safe place and a prosperous place. And I realized that the feelings I had were quite different than what I had before. And it was actually, as I compared the two, I realized that I had really hated this man. I discarded him, despised him, wanted him to lose and fail. But God baptized me with a love for him that caused me to fulfill the word that says, pray for those in authority. Pray for them that we may lead quiet and peaceful lives. So I prayed for him with a new energy and anticipation. Then in a prayer meeting shortly thereafter, it was a noonday prayer meeting on Thursday, and a friend of mine who was actually born in Uganda and raised up under Idi Amin, now is a missionary to this country and is a man of faith and spends his time in prayer and fasting and interceding. I suddenly had the thought that this man was going to meet with Mom Donnie and was going to pray with him and actually put a prayer covering in place around him that would be accepted by the new mayor. That's kind of an unusual thought. And I spoke it, and I speak it as a prophetic word that something will arise out of this relationship that will be a blessing to the mayor of New York City. I was kind of taken back by it. But then I realized again, we are the resurrection crowd. We are the resurrection crowd. And we need to speak faith instead of fear. We need to speak life instead of death. Because we know how this ends. We know how this ends. God's anointing is on us. And the issue is, are we willing to stand in the gap? Well, I received a call from a friend from Africa, another friend, and he said, God spoke to me and told me to come to New York City in the coming year and pray and fast for 40 days in the city. I thought it was a little bit extreme. But as I pondered it, I felt like the Lord was saying, if I can't find people to pray for the city and for the country here in this country, I'll bring them in from another country to pray and fast and seek my face, because I want to bless this country. I want to bless New York City, but I need people to stand in the gap and pray for it. So that's what I want to do, is with renewed fervor and faith and love. And I call you to join me in praying for this country, praying for New York City, praying for even the people that we disagree with, but we believe God is able to bring life out of death, beauty out of ashes, hope out of despair, because we are the resurrection crowd. God bless you.